Hi, my name is Peter Brukner. I'm a sport and exercise medicine physician and Professor of Sports Medicine at La Trobe University. This is my story. When I was a kid, I had one great passion in life. I loved sport. I spent my childhood either playing sport, watching sport, reading about sport. I'd race out, get the newspaper every morning and turn to the back pages and read all the sport. I used to feel guilty about that, but until I saw this quote from Earl Warren, a very famous American, who said, "I always turn to the sports section first. The sports section records people's accomplishments. The front page, nothing but man's failures." I felt much better after that. I once saw when I was young that I'd know when I'd grown up when I stopped reading the sports pages first, but yeah, hasn't happened yet. But I used to dream, like most kids did. I dreamed of opening the batting for Australia, or playing footy for South Melbourne as they were in those days, or winning the Olympic 1500 metres, or playing for Tottenham Hotspur. But there was one slight problem in that I didn't particularly have a lot of talent, and so I had to come up with a plan B. What I really wanted to do when I left school was become a sports commentator, but my mother convinced me that I should be a doctor. And off I went to medical school at the University of Melbourne, did my medical degree, went off to England to practice on the Poms for a while, and then came back and started off in general practice, but soon got more and more involved in sports medicine. And for the last 35 years or so, I've been involved in a sports medicine clinic at Melbourne Olympic Park Sports Medicine Centre. And over that time, I've worked with a whole bunch of professional sporting teams, starting with AFL teams, Melbourne and Collingwood, with various national sporting teams, swimming, athletics, hockey, soccer and cricket. I was fortunate enough to go to a couple of Olympics with the Australian team to Atlanta, and then in Sydney I was the team manager of the athletics team, the Australian athletics team, and that was a pretty exciting experience 20 years ago today. Even managed to have a run with the Olympic torch beforehand and to be there when all the exciting events of those games happened. Then I had a bit of a break from travelling while the kids were going through their teenage years, and got back into travelling again with the Socceroos, and did the 4-year campaign leading up to the World Cup in 2010 in South Africa. Went straight from there, from the World Cup. The day after we were eliminated, I was on a plane to Liverpool, England, where I was to take up a new role as Director of Sports Medicine and Sports Science at the Liverpool Football Club, which was an amazing experience in the English Premier League. Spent 3 years in Liverpool, and then got a gig with the Australian cricket team as I finally got to walk out at Lord's. Not really the way I dreamt of when I was a 12-year-old kid, but it was better than nothing anyway. There we got to meet the Queen. That's the only photo my mother has of me in her house, but anyway, that's okay. So I did 5 years and 51 tests with the Australian cricket team, and including winning the World Cup and so on. Along the way, I've also done a lot of media work. Had a great gig as a boundary rider for ABC Radio Football for a number of years, and I've done a lot of research and written quite a number of textbooks. So I've been pretty busy. So what am I doing here talking about diabetes? Well, back in 2012, when I was living in the UK and single-handedly winning trophies for the Liverpool Football Club, the guy with the cup had nothing to do with it. I was, if you'd asked me whether I was healthy, I'd have said, yeah, I was pretty healthy. I'd just turned 60. I'd been on a, supposedly healthy diet all my life. I'd exercised regularly. My blood sugars were fine. I was healthy. The reality was I wasn't quite as healthy as I thought I was. For a start, I had a family history of type 2 diabetes. My father had developed type 2 diabetes at exactly the age I was at then, and I was pretty clear I didn't want to go down that path. I was overweight, borderline obese. I'd probably, like a lot of middle-aged men, and I think of 60 as middle-aged. I used to think it was old, but now I think it's middle-aged. I'd probably put on half a kilogram a year for 30 years, to the point where I was 15 kilograms overweight. And my kids are starting to poke me in the guts and say, "Come on, Dad, do something about it." And I'd shrug my shoulders and say, "Well, I'm on a low-fat diet and I exercise, it's not my fault." And the reality was that my blood tests were not great. I had a high triglyceride level, had high insulin levels, and I'd had a disease called fatty liver for about 10 years. But like a typical doctor, I completely ignored it and thought it might go away, which it didn't. So around that time, as I said, I really wasn't that as healthy as I thought I was. And you can see there that I'm significantly overweight. Around that time, I started to hear some people talking about this low carb way of eating, and I thought, let's give it a go. I really need to try something. In particular, Tim Noakes, who was an old colleague of mine from South Africa, had started to talk about this, and Tim is a super smart guy, and I thought, no, I need to look into this. So I started reading some books, and in particular one book by a guy called Gary Taubes called Good Calories, Bad Calories, and this just blew me away, this book. I mean, it was incredible. Not only to talk about the relative merits of low carb and low fat, but it talked about the politics of how the low fat movement had won out over the low carb movement. Amazing book. I remember putting it down at night thinking, nah, this couldn't be true. You know, we couldn't have got this wrong all these years. It couldn't be right. So I thought, well, the only way to find out is to try it for myself. So I thought, well, I'll try a 3-month experiment where I go on a low carb, healthy fat, healthy protein diet and see what happens. So on day 1, I got all my bloods done and I embarked on a diet. So what did I stop eating? Well, I stopped eating sugars, starches, sugar, bread, cereal, pasta, rice, potatoes, all the things that I'd been a staple of my diet. No fruit juice, no starchy vegetables, no margarine. Went back to butter, stopped using vegetable oils, and basically stopped all processed foods. So what did I eat instead? Well, I went back to probably the way that my grandparents had been eating, with lots of meat and fish and eggs and non-starchy vegetables. I mean, eggs, I've been demonised for years. I went back to eating them. Butter, I threw the margarine out and went back to eating a natural food like butter. Full fat milk, full fat cream, olive oil, nuts, and the only fruit I had was berries. So what happened? Well, the first thing that happened was I stopped being hungry. So instead of having my breakfast cereal at 8 o'clock in the morning and then getting to about 10 o'clock and thinking, God, it must be lunchtime soon, I stopped being hungry. And I'd have my eggs and bacon and avocado for breakfast and I wouldn't be hungry all day. I went from eating 3 meals and 3 snacks a day to eating 2 meals a day, which is what I still do to this day. So that was the first thing. Then I started to lose weight. I'd weigh myself every week and I just kept losing weight. The first week or two I thought, oh yeah, that's just beginner's luck. But I kept losing weight every week. And then I started to notice some changes. I had more energy. I wasn't as sleepy in the afternoon. I slept better at night. I stopped snoring. I felt more refreshed when I woke up. My concentration was better. My exercise tolerance was better. All these things started to happen. It was quite amazing. So at the end of the 13 weeks, what had happened? Well, I was half the man I used to be. I lost 13 kilograms. 13 kilograms in 13 weeks. I was never hungry once. I ate delicious food and I ate as much as I liked. How good was that? I almost sort of felt guilty. I thought, it's not supposed to be this easy. And everyone says how hard it is to lose weight, and I just managed to lose 13 kilograms in 13 weeks without even trying. It's amazing. And then I had my bloods done, and all my bloods returned to normal. My fatty liver, my liver results had been abnormal for years. My ALT, which is the best indicator of fatty liver, had been over 60 for years, and it should be under 40. Some people say under 25. And in the space of those 13 weeks, it came completely back to normal. As did my triglycerides, my insulin, all my metabolic abnormalities basically disappeared. So I went from clearly being pre-diabetic to being normal. So, pretty amazing. 13 weeks, reduced appetite, lost 13 kilograms a week, increased my HDL cholesterol, decreased my triglyceride, improved my ratio, normalised my insulin levels, resolved my fatty liver. Unbelievable. Imagine if you could take a tablet that would do all that, you'd pay a fortune for it. And yet, I'd done it with diet. The one negative, I needed a new wardrobe. But I figured that was a small price to pay. So, that's my story. And since then, I've become a passionate advocate of eating this way. I guess you have two choices. When you're in this situation, you either say, well, great, I'm right. I'm a lot healthier and a lot happier than I used to be. Or you can sort of say, well, I've discovered something here. I'm not pretending I'm the first to discover it by any means, but I've discovered something for myself and I need to tell people. I need to get this message out there because I want other people to get the benefits that I got from changing my diet. So I've become a passionate advocate by giving talks, writing. A few years ago, we started a campaign called Sugar by Half, with the aim of reducing the amount of added sugar by half. The Australian average of 16 down to 6. what the World Health Organization recommends. So Sugar by Half's been active. We have an education program, we've got a corporate program, we've got a schools, we've got a community sport program, and we're about to embark on this Defeat Diabetes program, which is pretty exciting. So I hope you'll understand why I've given up the best job in the world, single-handedly winning the Ashes for my country, and taken on this campaign to reduce the amount of sugar and improve the way we eat. I put a book out called A Fat Lot of Good. You might say, as I did, well, does the world need another diet book? And that was my response to the publishers when they approached me. But they convinced me that there were very few books by doctors and none by Australian doctors. So I thought I'll give it a go. And I'm glad I did, because it sold a lot of copies. All the royalties go to Sugar by Half, so I don't actually make any money out of it. But what I have had is lots of emails, people saying that they've really enjoyed the book and that it changed their life and it's turned their health around, and that's incredibly rewarding. So that's what I want to do. The next step is this program, Defeat Diabetes, that I'm passionate about, and we really want to make a difference. We want to make a difference to people. We can reverse this disease. The 2 million Australians who've got type 2 diabetes don't need to suffer the consequences. Thanks for listening.